They say power never truly dies, it just changes form. We know Washington, D.C. as the seat of American democracy, a city of marble monuments and written laws. But when the tourists leave and the lights dim, a different constituency takes the floor. From a demon cat that predicts national disasters to a first lady who still tends her garden 2 centuries later. The District of Columbia isn't just the political capital of the United States, it is the spiritual capital. Welcome to the dark side of the district. While history books record the dates and the laws, the ghost stories of Washington record the emotions, the grief, the guilt, and the unfinished business of the nation's most powerful figures. Today, we aren't just visiting buildings, we are visiting the people who refused to leave them. We'll walk the halls of the White House where Lincoln still paces, visit the hotel where a tragic socialite signals her presence with the scent of almonds, and step inside the Octagon House, widely considered the most haunted home in the city. Put aside your politics. In the afterlife, everyone gets a vote. If the White House is the crown jewel of American history, it is also its most crowded mausoleum. While many spirits are said to roam 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, from a spectral British soldier torching the halls in 1814 to the ghost of Abigail Adams, hanging laundry in the East Room, there is one figure who dominates the afterlife, just as he dominated his presidency. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's life in this house was defined by death. It was here, in 1862, that his beloved 11-year-old son, Willie, died of typhoid fever. Lincoln was shattered. Historians say he often visited Willie's crypt, and spiritualism seances were held in the Red Room by Mary Todd Lincoln in a desperate attempt to contact the boy. Perhaps this opened a door that was never fully closed. Since his assassination, the great emancipator has been seen by a staggering number of witnesses. He is not a malicious spirit, he is a brooding one. He is most often felt in the Lincoln bedroom and the yellow oval room, gazing out the window toward the Potomac. The witnesses are credible. President Theodore Roosevelt admitted to seeing Lincoln in different parts of the house. First Lady Grace Coolidge described seeing him standing at a window in the Oval Office, staring out at the battlefield of history. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands, while staying at the White House, answered a knock at her bedroom door late at night. When she opened it, she saw the tall, unmistakable figure of Lincoln in a frock coat and top hat. She fainted dead away on the spot. Even the family dog of Ronald Reagan would reportedly bark frantically at the entrance to the Lincoln bedroom and refuse to cross the threshold. In the White House, terms end after 4 years, but for Abraham Lincoln, the presidency is eternal. A mile down Pennsylvania Avenue, the U.S. Capitol building houses the legislative branch, but the basement crypt houses something far less civilized. While the rotunda is known for the spirits of statesmen like John Quincy Adams, who is said to still rehearse his speeches, near the spot where he suffered his fatal stroke, the most terrifying resident is the demon cat. The legend dates back to the early 19th century. The Capitol was overrun with rats, so cats were introduced to the basement tunnels to hunt. But one cat never left. This spectral feline, known simply as D.C., is said to make its home in the concrete letters of the tomb originally intended for George Washington. This is not a normal haunting. The demon cat is a harbinger of national tragedy. According to the testimony of Capitol Police guards spanning 150 years, the entity appears in the nights preceding catastrophic events. It was reportedly seen just before the stock market crash of 1929 and mere days before the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The terrifying aspect of the demon cat is its transformation. Witnesses claim it begins as a small, harmless tabby. However, as you approach it, the animal does not run. Instead, it swells. It grows in size, expanding to the bulk of a tiger or a bear, its eyes glowing a hypnotic red. In 1898, a guard fired his pistol at the beast. The bullet passed through the phantom, and the cat leaped over his head, vanishing into thin air. Today, sharp-eyed tourists can still see faint paw prints in the concrete floor of the small Senate rotunda, permanent marks left by a creature that defies the laws of nature. Often cited as the most haunted private residence in Washington, D.C., the Octagon House is a stunning example of federal architecture and a prison of tragic memories. Built by Colonel John Taylor III, the wealthiest plantation owner of his time, the house served as a temporary White House for James and Dolly Madison after the British burned the city in 1814. But the ghosts here are not presidential. They are familial. The central feature of the home is a magnificent, dizzying spiral staircase that ascends 3 floors. It is a masterpiece of design and a weapon of death. The legend tells of 2 of Colonel Taylor's daughters. In the early 1800s, the first daughter quarreled with her father on the 2nd floor, landing allegedly over a suitor her father disapproved of. In her rage or grief, she fell over the banister, plummeting to her death in the hall below. Years later, in a twist of cruel fate that defies probability, a second daughter suffered the exact same demise, falling from the same landing to the same hard stone floor. Today, the residual energy of these falls remains. Curators and visitors report the unmistakable sound of a heavy thud hitting the entry floor, followed by a blood-curdling scream, yet the hall is empty. But the most active phenomenon involves the servant bells. The house was once wired with a system of bells for summoning slaves and servants. The wires were cut decades ago. Yet, late at night, police and caretakers have watched in horror as the bells on the wall begin to swing wildly, ringing out a frantic summons from masters who have been dead for 200 years. Luxury often hides the deepest pain. The Adams Hotel stands on the site of the former homes of John Hay and Henry Adams. Henry's wife, Marion Clover Adams, was a brilliant photographer and a celebrated socialite, but she was consumed by a depression that few in Victorian society understood. In 1885, following the death of her beloved father, Clover's grief became insurmountable. In her bedroom, which occupied the space that is now the hotel's 4th floor, she made a fatal decision. She poured a vial of potassium cyanide, a chemical she used for developing her photographs, and drank it. Potassium cyanide has a very specific, sickly sweet odor, bitter almonds. Since the hotel opened in the 1920s, that scent has become the signature of Clover's ghost. Housekeepers working on the 4th floor have reported the sudden, overwhelming smell of almonds in empty rooms. Narrator: Clover is not a noisy ghost. She does not slam doors. She weeps. Guests have reported waking up to the sound of a woman sobbing softly in the corner of the room, or feeling a gentle, invisible pressure on the bed, as if someone has sat down to comfort them. There are even reports of a woman's voice asking, "What do you want?" when staff enter a room. It is a haunting of pure sadness, a loop of despair that has lasted nearly a century and a half. April 14, 1865, 10:15 p.m. This is the exact moment American history changed forever. Ford's Theater is a unique location in D.C. It is both a functioning theater and an active crime scene. It is here that John Wilkes Booth crept into the presidential box and fired a single .44 caliber bullet into the back of Abraham Lincoln's head. The theater was closed for decades after the assassination, termed a cursed building by the superstitious public. When it was eventually restored and reopened, the spirits of that night seem to have remained trapped in the architecture. Actors and stagehands tell stories of a permanent chill on the stage, specifically in the path Booth took when he leaped from the box and broke his leg. But the most chilling activity occurs after hours. National Park Service rangers have reported hearing the heavy, deliberate footsteps of a man pacing the corridors near the executive office, footsteps that sound exactly like Lincoln's distinctive, flat-footed gait. Others have reported seeing a frantic figure running across the stage in the dark, reenacting Booth's desperate escape. There are even reports of the ghost of Mary Todd Lincoln, seen weeping in the box, forever reliving the moment her husband was taken from her. At Ford's Theater, the play ended in 1865, but the actors have never left the stage. Directly across from the White House sits the Decatur House, a mansion built for a hero that became a monument to regret. Stephen Decatur was the golden boy of the U.S. Navy, a war hero who defeated the Barbary pirates. He built this home in 1818 to be the center of Washington society. It was, but only for 14 months. In 1820, Decatur was challenged to a duel by a disgraced rival officer, James Barron, on the dueling grounds of Bladensburg, Maryland. The two men faced off. Decatur, refusing to kill his opponent, aimed for the hip. Barron aimed to kill. Decatur was shot in the abdomen and hauled back to this house in agonizing pain. He died later that night, crying out in delirium. His widow, Susan, was so traumatized by his death that she could not bear to look at the window where he had stood, gazing out at the street, waiting for the carriage that would take him to his death. Legend says she saw his ghost standing there every single night, weeping. To stop the haunting, she ordered the window to be walled up. To this day, passers-by on each street report seeing a pale, sad face peering out from the second floor, sometimes from behind the glass, and sometimes, impossibly, from the solid brick where the window used to be. Inside, cleaning crews have reported the sensation of a stomach wound or sharp, inexplicable pain in the gut when entering the room where the Commodore took his final breath. In the historic neighborhood of Georgetown, the Halcyon House stands as a testament to the obsession of Benjamin Stoddart, the first Secretary of the Navy. Stoddart built the house in 1787, designing magnificent gardens that stretched down to the Potomac River. But Stoddart was a man of secrets. The house is famous for its electrical atmosphere. During the 20th century, when the house was owned by the eccentric Albert Clemens, he believed that if he stopped building, he would die, a superstition he shared with the Winchester Mystery House heiress. He added strange staircases that led nowhere and doors that opened into solid walls. Visitors to Halcyon House report a physical heaviness in the air. Stoddart's ghost is said to be a darker presence, often seen sitting in a chair in the corner of the reception room, watching visitors with disdain. But the most famous phenomenon is the phantom party. Neighbors and guests have reported seeing the house fully lit up late at night, with the silhouettes of figures dancing in the windows and the sounds of a string quartet drifting onto the street. When police or caretakers investigate, the house is pitch black, silent, and empty. It seems the elites of the 18th century are still holding the season's most exclusive gala, and we aren't on the guest list. Now the Embassy of Indonesia, this 60-room mansion on Massachusetts Avenue, was once the home of Evelyn Walsh-McLean, the last private owner of the world's most notorious gem, the Hope Diamond. Evelyn wore the 45-carat blue diamond everywhere, Ivan letting her Great Dane wear it around the house. She claimed she didn't believe in the curse, but the curse believed in her. While living in this house, her life disintegrated. Her son was killed by a car. Her daughter died of a drug overdose. Her husband went insane and was committed to an asylum. And the family newspaper, the Washington Post, went bankrupt. Though the diamond now rests in the Smithsonian, the energy it generated remains in the house. Embassy staff have reported seeing a woman in a flowing gown descending the grand staircase, only to vanish at the bottom. During diplomatic events, guests have felt cold spots that move through the crowd, and the sound of a woman crying has been heard in the upper bedrooms. It is said that Evelyn is still searching for the piece that her diamond promised, but never delivered. The house stands as a glittering reminder that some treasures possess their owners, not the other way around. Amidst the high-end shopping of Georgetown's M Street stands the Old Stone House. Built in 1765, it is the oldest unchanged building in Washington, D.C. It looks quaint, almost charming, but locals know better. This small house is a container for aggressive spiritual energy. National Park Service rangers who maintain the site maintain a log of incidents. Unlike the sad, weeping ghosts of the White House, the spirits here are angry. There are reports of at least 11 different entities, but the most dominant is a male spirit, known simply as George. George is not a friendly ghost. He is believed to be a boarder who died in the house, or perhaps a criminal who hid there. Visitors have reported the sensation of being choked, feeling invisible hands tightening around their necks. Others have been physically shoved toward the steep staircase. There is also the lady in the rocker. In the third-floor bedroom, a rocking chair has been seen moving on its own. Legend says a woman died there in childbirth. If you stand in the room too long, you might smell the scent of lye soap and feel a sudden, sharp drop in temperature. In a city of politicians and monuments, the Old Stone House is a reminder of the raw, brutal life of the common colonial citizen and their refusal to be forgotten. Our final stop brings us to 604 H Street NW. Today, it is a karaoke bar and restaurant, but in 1865, it was the Surratt boarding house, the epicenter of the plot to kill Abraham Lincoln. It was here that John Wilkes Booth met with his co-conspirators. It was here that Mary Surratt, the owner, allegedly facilitated the assassination. For her role, she became the first woman ever executed by the U.S. federal government. She maintained her innocence until the moment the trapdoor opened. The building has changed hands many times, but the energy of 1865 is baked into the brick. Patrons and employees have reported strange whisperings in the hallways, muffled voices discussing plans and titles. But the most chilling activity is Mary herself. Residents of the upper floors, when it was an apartment, reported the sound of a woman pacing back and forth, endlessly, and the muffled sound of sobbing. Mary Surratt's ghost is not just in this house. She is also seen at Fort McNair, where she was hanged. But here, in her home, the haunting is one of confusion and denial. Whether she was a mastermind or a victim of circumstance, her spirit remains trapped in the place where the American nightmare was born. Washington, D.C. is a city of facades. We polish the marble, we manicure the lawns, and we tell the stories of victory. But behind every monument is a shadow. The ghosts of the Capitol remind us that history is not a static list of dates. It is a living, breathing, and sometimes screaming collection of human lives. From the grief of a president to the anger of a colonial border, these spirits are the permanent residents of the district. So, the next time you visit the nation's capital, look past the statues. Listen closely when the wind blows through Lafayette Park. You might find that the most interesting conversations in Washington aren't happening on the floor of the Senate, re-happening in the dark. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this tour of the haunted history of DC, hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the shadows. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.